The Drama of the Gifted Child, if you've read that book from Alice Miller, you will know that the gifted child suffers a life till the end because that child, when he or she was growing up, always chose to live the life that their parents created for them. We are all prisoners of our childhood. If we believe that, we will understand why these random emotions come up in us. If we take a step back and understand why do we feel jealous when a colleague wins a project or gets more successful? Why do we feel resentful of people, our friends, because they have a better car or they have better clothes, or if they are just happy and joyful? Why do we feel anxious, so anxious, and have no confidence in ourselves? The hell that we are creating or generating for ourselves is coming from inside of us. The reason we don't have confidence in ourselves, we are not able to celebrate wholeheartedly, we are not able to live a life without having this feeling inside our heart, is because somewhere we are still prisoners of the childhood environment that we grew up in. Everyone's parents and the elders we come in contact with only want the best for us. Our parents want us to be successful, they want us to earn a lot of money, buy that first house, get a great spouse, have great children, and just always be happy. What a lot of parents, and myself included, don't realize is that that is misplaced love. It is love where you're pushing your child, or our parents might have pushed us without understanding who we truly are. Instead of letting us develop into the kind of people we are, what we like, what we don't like, what our ambitions are, what is our understanding of life. They kind of put a blueprint on us on how life should be. And that is where our hell is created. Because what we learn from our parents or what we believe we should be is in contrast, is in fight with what we truly are. Now, a lot of people don't have this problem. They continue to live beautiful lives and they believe what their parents have created for them works for them and they live happily. But they are some of us. I feel the damned, the the cursed children is how I call myself, because we know from very early on in our life that maybe the dream that my parents have for me is not the dream I have for myself. Maybe the expectations they have from me is not a set of expectations I will be able to come up to or help them achieve those expectations. And so you kind of always have this unsettled feeling. But we as children, we always trust our parents. We want to believe they are true. And when we do make mistakes, we get such hell for making those mistakes and not listening to them that the next time we are scared to try new things. We are scared to experiment. We are so fearful of failing again that we just stop trying new things. And that is what I call the curse of some of us who are trying to find our true self. And we know that finding the true self is so hard that some of us just struggle all our lives doing it. I realized that I was carrying this huge expectation and was not incongruent with what my parents had dreamed for me. My parents wanted me to be a good bahu somewhere, a successful person, definitely, but not that there was any goal setting done for me or whether I was ever shown that this is what you can do to become successful in life. वो सब नहीं था. That was missing completely, but expectations were there. And so I went through life, feeling jealous of everybody else whom I thought was more joyful, resentful of other people's success. And I used to also get angry when I used to find couples who were so much in love because I didn't have that. Not understanding that I am probably doing self-sabotage because I'm so invested in trying to live the life that my parents had for me, even though I couldn't understand that life. And I didn't have the wisdom, didn't have the courage actually to understand what is it that I truly wanted. And so a lot of years just went by in trying to find yourself. The first thing that started changing in me and my life started taking a turn was when I felt very jealous of a success of one of my colleagues. And this colleague was, somebody who was moderately successful but had the ability to keep everybody very happy. Why is it that I'm smarter and I'm better and I'm recognized for my work, but I'm still not being as successful as this person? And I spoke to some of the friends I knew that time, and I asked them, what do you think of me? And everybody almost automatically said, gosh, you're really angry most of the times. I never even realized that I was somebody who was very angry. And I was somebody who had so much of anger caught up inside me because, when you're not living your true life, you will always feel anxious and angry and resentful at the world. And you'll never have the courage to say that the mistakes are with you, that you are the one who's creating this negativity around yourself. But, when I took a step back, I realized I was angry because my marriage wasn't working. And I thought I was going to be a failure in my life. And I wasn't able to live to the standard that my parents had for me. And that's the day I took a step back and said, what is it I want? Who is me? Who is Rubina? The thing is, to really discover yourself, you have to know who you are today, because only when you know who you are today can you hope to change yourself into the next person. Can you create a different image for yourself? If we are not aware of who we are today in every detail, the weaknesses, the strengths, the dark parts, we have to embrace the dark parts. And the good parts, that we can decide, okay, I want this, I don't want this quality. I want to be like this, I don't want to be like this. I want to be strong, but I also am happy being weak in some situations. And then you can create a new blueprint for yourself. And this blueprint will definitely be easier to work at, because this blueprint is possibly who you really are, your true self. A lot of us come guided, we come with this intelligence before birth, we develop this intelligence as children, and somewhere in all of this, we start crystallizing our true self. And then we start doing the work. When we start doing this work, we can always switch into this victim mentality and say, I'm not like this because my parents did this. I'm not like this because my teacher was like this. I was not like this because I didn't get the opportunities that I should have as a child. But that is the wrong place to start. Playing the victim means you've already given the power to the outside elements. You've already said that I can't work on myself. I can't take responsibility for myself. So I rather just blame everybody else. A good place to begin when you start working on ourselves, and that's what worked for me, was to identify, if I'm alone in this world, I have no one to blame. I start with a clean slate. Identify all the feelings that I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel resentful. I don't want to feel jealous. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel angry. I want to be a kind person, a generous person, a person who's able to help others, a person who's able to create a world of positivity and success. And when we start doing this work, there are times, a lot of times, where we will slip back into feeling, resentful, angry, anxious. Why me? Why me? Beliefs in us are imprinted so deeply that they will come triggering. Even when we don't want to feel sad or resentful or jealous, we'll start feeling that, because that is so deeply burnt in our head. It becomes burnt in our subconsciousness, right? And that is the time you have to step up and say, okay, do the self-talk. Whatever stories we create in our head is what helps us create the new reality. The best place that I started was to look at my parents and say, it doesn't matter how you brought me up. It doesn't matter what you did to me. What matters is that I will love you irrespective. I will respect you irrespective. You see, our parents also come with their own crosses to bear, their own baggages, and they never had access to mental wellness or access to somebody even listening to them. So you can't keep blaming them, is what I realized was the most important shift in my mind. I said, irrespective of me feeling how I'm feeling, I'm still going to be very joyful, and I'm going to give you love because I think you did your best. No parent brings up the children feeling that they're going to not give you the best of their ability, right? At least my parents did not. And when we give love, when we give positivity, when we make up our mind to be the bigger person, you automatically start changing the environment around you. You see, if you believe in vibrations, when you meet somebody, you get immediately drawn to some people and some people repel us. When we become that seat of joy and positivity, our positivity and joy starts rubbing off on the people whom you thought were not capable of this, And sometimes it happens very rapidly, but sometimes it happens slowly. We have to believe that we are the center of our universe, and what we give out will come back to us. In fact, that's the third law of physics, right? And for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction, right? So that's exactly how it works. What also works is actually journaling. The more we live in kindness, the more kinder we become. So make it a point to be kind to 3 people on the first day. And when I say kind, kind to people whom it is difficult to be kind to. Like if the maid is coming late and you are in a hurry to go to office and you've been delayed, can you be kind to that person at that time? When you're forced, when your inner belief doesn't want to be, but you check yourself and still do the right thing, that is where the wins start, building up for us. And we start feeling a sense of power that, oh, I could do it, so I can do it. The other thing that really worked for me was to actually look at the times in my past where I had to be very honest and brutal with myself and say, this situation could have turned completely differently if I had acted from high value. If instead of being crabby and angry and being a small person in such a situation, if I had been the bigger person, the kinder person, the more giving and the more loving person, this situation could have changed completely. And so I started identifying similar situations in my present life and forced myself to behave or to react from a higher value. It's a little hard because we are so hard coded to be, at least I was very hard coded to be super competitive and always successful and always trying to be the best person so that I'm always loved by everybody. It's a little hard, but then slowly you get used to it. You get easier with not being the best in the room, letting other people shine also. Because remember, when your friends or your family is shining, it also gives you a lot of joy to see other people's success. And that is the place where we have to evolve ourselves to. And the most difficult thing that I did was that I reached out to all my friends and colleagues whom I know I had been mean to and whom I had been a little bitchy to also, and apologized. The first 2-3 calls were very hard, because it's not like they were 100% right, but the journey to finding your true self is about you. It's not about other people. That is the most important thing that I had to keep telling myself. So I said, it doesn't matter how they react, it doesn't matter how they behaved. This is how I behaved. I have to own my behavior. And the more I spoke to them and the more bridges I built, the easier it got for me to do it with the rest of the list that I had. It's not like it was a very long list, which is about 7-8 people. But the fact that I remember those incidents and I used to think about them a lot and I used to feel very anxious and angry, they didn't give me a good feeling. I decided to overcome them. The best thing is that after I did these calls, I started looking at those people without the resentment and the anger. You see, we become a prisoner of the anger and the rage and the resentment. Nobody else gets affected by it. It's only we who get affected. And the moment you're able to release yourself, you come to a place of joy and happiness and you feel so much lighter with life. And that is, I think, totally worth it in our lives. The best thing that happened with me in finding my true self is that I found that I could now live in total harmony with who I really was. I'm somebody who loves to be generous. But, when I wanted to be generous to other people, I would be like, why should I be generous to this person? What does this person do for me? Now I started thinking that I'm going to be generous irrespective. And then I started getting in touch with people who were equally generous with me. You see, what we give out comes back to us. The second quality about me was that I'm somebody who's very, very kind. I just like to be kind. And the same thing happened. I started meeting really kind people. The third thing is I'm very straightforward. I prefer it to be that way. And I met the most straightforward person in the universe, my husband. He can tell me anything right on my face, cuts out all the bullshit, all the BS immediately. And what a beautiful life I've created with him. I think that was the best thing about finding my true self. And better than that was, of course, building the bridges with my parents. And the last few years with my parents have been the most beautiful, most rewarding. You see, however hard we try, the prison that we get entrapped in as children is the prison that will continue to hold us back. And to free ourselves from that prison, we have to do the work. And the day the walls fall off is just a beautiful life ahead. I lost my mum last year, and it happened in November. And before that, the last few days that I spent with her, my mom said to me that, Beta, I wish everybody has a daughter like you, has a child like you. When she said that, I remember that moment so distinctly, and I will remember that forever as the most precious memory that I've had with my mom, because my mom was somebody who in 1962 was a B.Ed, was a double MA, and was the most fashionable person that you'd ever meet in the 1960s in a small village of Pithoragarh, right? She studied in a different town, so she came from a family which trusted their children to go out and study, daughters. So she had huge expectation from me, but I was not built that way. And so I think somewhere there is where the genesis of our difficult relationship was set in. I was more of, I think I would have become a Bollywood actress if I had the looks for it. But I turned out to be somebody who worked in the IT, who had her own business. And my drive has always been to excel because I wanted my mom to say I was the best. So sometimes these beliefs do work for you. The thing to realize is, are they making you happy or not? So I'm successful today, and I'm happier, and I'm joyful, and I have found the truest love. So if I were to put it in one sentence, it would be acknowledge where you come from. Get very real with where you want to be and build a bridge in between, keeping your past and your future tightly tied together. Somewhere in between is our true self that is so worth discovering. Let's meet in the comment section.